this film, man. For those wondering, this was a paid request for Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting a review or re-review, topic, commentary, reaction, whatever the case may be, PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box under most of these videos. If you do use PayPal, make sure to use the family and friends option, since PayPal kind of works better with that, it seems. And hope you enjoy the video, because this movie definitely isn't enjoyable. The Adventures of Pluto Nash from 2002. And yes, lo and behold, I do have the DVD. Why? I think this is a time when, you just get DVDs cheap. And this is a time in my life where I just wanted the complete collections of certain actors. I've kind of grown out of that. But at least, take it off the shelf, watch it, put it back in. I just noticed this. The Mr. Movies label. That's the place I used to work at, Mr. Movies. So now I remember when I got this. I got this when the store I worked at closed down. And, they're getting rid of a lot of stuff. So I went in, used a bit of my last paycheck just to buy a bunch of movies for very, very cheap. And this is one of them. Because it's like, just get rid of them all. Or as much as possible. Now, Pluto Nash. The infamous box office of this is much more memorable than the movie. That's really the best place to start. And by the way, if you're wondering, there's additional scenes. There's an Ain't No Need music video. There's a making of the music video, but not a making of the movie. So that's kind of funny. It's not a making of the movie. There's a making of the music video for the movie. Go figure. And it's one of those Warner Brothers snapper cases, which a lot of people hate, but I do like. I know I'm like 2.5 minutes in. Because this is one of those movies that, if not a lot of people have talked about, you at least know of the movie. You've heard the movie. You'd heard of the box office bombness of this movie. Because the thing of it, when I look at the concept, I can see the possibility of it being at least a fun piece of entertainment. Eddie Murphy in a sci-fi adventure film with a bit of action. Hopefully you have Eddie Murphy to bring up the comedy, wisecracks, wit, and you put him in a sci-fi setting, in this case the moon. You have mobsters, you have nightclubs. It says this in the future, in the year, I think they say 2080. The hopeful, possible creativity of the designs of the technology, and what would you think of in terms of jokes of what would or would not be in the future. Sadly, it's a lot of talent wasted on a very dull, witless, aimless script. And a lot of people say the script is the spine of a movie. And yeah, there are movies that are enjoyable, but the script is slim, flimsy. That's when your cast or your director or your technical folks of effects, costume design, everything else really have to get in the gear. And you just go through the years, there are movies that don't have like the best scripts, but they're entertaining. Sadly, neither one accomplished their goal, accomplished their job. Eddie Murphy, who I do enjoy, I mean, my favorite comedy of all time is an Eddie Murphy movie called The Golden Child, which is also a film that got critically derided, although it was a box office hit, and I love that film. That's a film that showcases, people may seem as a weak script, I don't think it's as weak as people say it is, but Eddie Murphy soared with that movie. He gave it his all and more so, and that's why I love that film. Every line, every wisecrack, if you felt like he was an everyman stuck in a crazy situation. What is this? Yak loin? Good to get the yang up. Nothing wrong with my yang. Hey, bird! You see a little midget in the tree floating? Who's calling? Rod Serling? Yeah, no paddle. Go paddle his ass when I find him. Go paddle your ass, you find, you hear me? You took my $100? Go roll your ass till it bleeds. You needed that kind of Eddie Murphy. I'm not saying it would save the movie entirely, but it would have helped. Here, Eddie Murphy, for the most part, is trying to play it straight. And that's the thing, is that the marketing showcases as a comedy, and the film itself seems like a comedy, but it's not that funny. I know I'm 6 minutes in. The bottom line is it's a movie that's not funny, and it's billed as a comedy. So when you have a comedy that's not that funny, and the jokes it has are groaners. Oh, we have some money where Hillary Clinton is on it. Because, yeah, that really stood the test of time, having Hillary Clinton money. Or, we first heard about cloning. Does this person clone this old basketball player? Oh, they were called the Air Jordans. One of the first running jokes is Eddie Murphy talking with Jay Mohr, who has a kilt on, and Eddie Murphy keeps calling it a skirt. That's probably the first running joke. Is Eddie Murphy in a club on the moon, run down, Jay Mohr playing an accordion with a kilt on, singing totally out of his lead. Eddie Murphy gives him the idea you should be like Frank Sinatra. Change your name, embrace your Italian heritage, all that stuff. And what I was saying before about the talent, you look at the cast in this. Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, 48 Hours. Rosario Dawson, talented actress, would go on to be in Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof and Clerks 2, and I think she was in Sin City, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Really good actress. Really do enjoy her. Randy Quaid, who's batshit insane now, but he would do National Lampoon's Vacation, Christmas Vacation. He was fun in Independence Day, just a few years before this. Hey guys, I'm back. That's playing a somewhat silly character, in that case a drunkard, but he was entertaining in that role. And fairly heroic by the end. So those three, you got Peter Boyle from Young Frankenstein. You have Jay Mohr, which he's done a lot of stuff. Some people may not know who he is, but if you look him up, yeah, he's still a pretty talented guy. I think he was in this film called Go back in the day, among other stuff. You have Pam Grier as Eddie Murphy's mom. You got John Cleese. You've got Burt Young, may he rest in peace. He shows up at the beginning of the movie. Joe Pantoliano from the Goonies and The Matrix. So you have a whole wealth of talented people involved with this. And a lot of them are not really given much to do because they're given pretty lackluster lines or strips or dialogue to showcase their talent. The director, Ron Underwood, this is a talented guy. This guy did Tremors. Fantastic movie. City Slickers, my favorite Billy Crystal film. Great comedic western. Mighty Joe Young, entertaining remake with Bill Paxton. And then this kind of killed his career. I mean, he did make movies after this, but he did a crime film with Usher, or made for TV movies like Santa Baby 1 and 2 with Jenny McCarthy. Think about that. You go from working like Billy Crystal and Eddie Murphy and to doing Santa Baby with Jenny McCarthy. Yeah, your career kind of hit a fucking brick wall when that happens. And the plot is Eddie Murphy's gotten out of jail. He wants to have a nightclub. He buys this shithole. He opens it up. It's sometime later. Joe Pantoliano comes in and says his boss wants to give you an offer for $10 million. Eddie says no. He's hired Rosario Dawson, who needs work. Randy Quaid is Eddie's robot bodyguard. And they also did Smuggling back in the day, but Eddie Murphy wants to go on the straight and narrow path. But Joe Pantoliano and his cronies bomb the place, and then the rest of it's a chase movie. And it seemed like Eddie Murphy gave an autopilot performance. I wouldn't say it's his worst performance, and I can't even say it's the worst film I've seen Eddie Murphy in. People are like, really? Yeah, because as much as I will trash this movie, and it deserves to be trashed, gun to my head, if you're asking me, would I rather watch this or Norbit, Imagine That, You People, Coming to America 2, what was that one? Meet Dave. I'd rather watch this than any of those films I mentioned. Yes, I think Meet Dave is worse. I definitely think Norbit is worse. You People, the one with Jonah Hill, Coming to America 2, the one where Eddie Murphy's character gets date raped by the Leslie Jones from the Ghostbusters reboot, and it's played off for laughs. That's how you got a son. I drugged you and rode your dick, Eddie. This is better than those because at least there's talented people in the supporting cast I could watch even though they have nothing to do. At least there is action. It's not that great. It is a chase movie, so it does at least go in a pace that a little bit of shiny teas jingle jingle in front of my eyes. It doesn't insult me with stupid woke political shit like You People or what the fuck were they thinking, like Coming to America 2 or titified just lameness, like Imagine That. Norbit, I think is his worst one. That just annoyed the piss out of me. Literally, that's why I got a catheter on. No, I'm just kidding. But, no really, I'll show it at the end of the video. That's why you gotta watch the end of the video. There'll be catheters for all. For everyone watching, you did, like Oprah Winfrey, you did catheter, you did catheter, you did catheter too. You need one after watching some of these fucking movies. Just get pissed and then it just leaves you. And you don't want to piss your pants. No matter what Billy Madison tells you. It's not cool to piss your pants. Billy Madison just said that to be nice. But going off tangent. So, yeah, there are stuff that happens that might be okay. You know, the shootouts where Eddie tries to be action star. Like the Eddie chasing this guy and they get into this other club and they're shooting back and forth. Or Eddie and Randy Quaid and Rosario Dawson at Eddie's old hideout. And the bad guys get there and Eddie tries to do this jump and shoot. As if he's, you know, action hero man. But even then, like I said, there are worse movies, but this is not a good film either. The jokes are fairly lazy. Eddie Murphy did not bring his A game, or even his B game. You could barely even say his C game. It becomes kind of a dull, lifeless affair. Even the look of the moon colony, called Little America, even that is not as impressive looking as it should be. The art direction, the set design. they come off as kind of bland. And let me put it this way. This came out 2002. 5 years before this, you had The Fifth Element, which cost cheaper than this. The Fifth Element was $90 million. This was $100 million. Think about that. This was $10 million more. Came out 5 years after The Fifth Element. Now look at The Fifth Element and you just see the insane detail of the costumes and the special effects and the way the future of New York or Flosser I forget the Boston parrot. I forget the first part of the parrot where Chris Tucker's character, Ruby Rod, is at. All these locations, and I did the costumes like Gary Oldman, and even the ones like Bruce Willis, like all the characters have, and they're still impressive to look at today. This, not really. And then when you're off the moon colony, it's just you're on the surface of the moon, but of course everything's green screen. Which hell, even a low budget film like Moontrap would actually have certain shots that look like they were on the moon and done practical as much as they could with a low budget. This couldn't even do that. And so you have a film that the visual technical aspects are not that impressive looking compared to a lot of sci-fi in the past. You have plot elements that will remind you of Total Recall and Fifth Element. And Fifth Element in terms of like the... It's like a shittier version of the look of Fifth Element in terms of the cityscapes. And like I said, you get this talented cast, and it's nice to see them there. But like Burt Young, he's there to threaten Jay Mohr, say hi to Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy offers, hey, I'll pay out this guy and buy the club and give the money to you. And then you never see Burt Young again. Oh, there's Jay Mohr. He's threatened at the beginning, and then he comes back at the end to help Eddie Murphy out a bit. Oh, there's Luis Guzmán, who saves them on the moon and just tells a few bits of humor of how he's a big fan of Eddie Murphy and how he wanted to be a smuggler like him. Joel Pantoliano, anybody could have played his role. He's not really given any time to shine as a villain. He's pretty much directed to be kind of the blasé villain that is not... I mean, you could take an actor like that and even with a small role, give him direction to have him shine. The Fugitive, where he works under Tommy Lee Jones's character. That's not a big role, but his banter with Tommy Lee Jones and the way he gets to act and say certain pieces of dialogue, lines he's given, the way him and the whole team interacts with Tommy Lee Jones, make those scenes shine, and you make that character a bit more memorable because of that. Put a little bit of sprinkle on the cake. Put a little bit of spices on the dish. This doesn't really have any of that. Randy Quaid, his character was very irritating. He's a robot, but he glitches out, so he'll sound, hey, God, hello, how you doing? It just came off as very irritating, very annoying. I don't even think Randy Quaid was the right pick for the role. I mean, rest in peace to this guy, but if Richard Ball maybe, or someone else played him, maybe it could have worked. Or maybe just have the robot behave differently instead of this glitched out. Just the way the voice, the way the mannerisms, just made him more annoying than anything. At least for me. Who else? Peter Boyle's just there to give exposition. Pam Grier is in there for less than 5 minutes to say, I'm your mom, what are you doing here? She comes out, she shoots 2 people, and then she warns Eddie on a phone call. And it's funny how this is a 2002 film, and how even then some stuff is very outdated. For example, how when Pam Grier calls him, It's with America Online, AOL, and now, when was the last time you heard America Online? Because they pretty much went kaput. Or the Hillary Clinton books, things of that nature. That's the thing is, I think they had an idea, a concept, trying to have this mobster smuggle action chase bit on the moon. I think the concept can work as a fun action adventure comedy, but they did not have a script that was secure, and Eddie Murphy did not do the job he was supposed to do. Once in a while, he tries to do a little bit of humor, but he plays it more straightforward, and not only does it not work the best here, not only does Eddie Murphy just look at times either bored or maybe in the middle he realized this just ain't working and he's on a sinking boat. And also, as much as I like Ron Underwood, I like Ron Underwood. He's not really the action guy. I mean, I say that, and there's scenes that work in Tremors, so actually I take that back, because there's action bits in Tremors and Mighty Joe Young, and they work well. So I take that back. I take that back. I think maybe in this one he was just well in over his head, Sally, because this is one of those that I think Warner Bros. Just saw the concept and they just threw money at it. They threw money at any problem. They threw money and assumed this would be a huge hit. From what I read up, I mean, they were going to shoot in another place, but then they're like, no, no, let's shoot it in Canada. And the director's like, why? And the studio's like, well, because we want to set up a company, a studio in Montreal. So they built a fucking studio in Montreal because they wanted to have other movies made there. And that's a chunk of the budget, to build a fucking studio. Or things are not working, so let's get some really pricey reshoots. And if there were reshoots, it makes me wonder what the original scenes were. If this is what the reshoots to make it better. So again, as I'm watching, I'm sitting there going, it doesn't make me mad. The film doesn't make me angry. Do I think it's one of the worst films of all time? Fuck no, because look at the films I've seen. Feeders. Feeders 2. Hell, those Eddie Murphy films I saw. That film, The Asylum, The Almighty Thor I reviewed a bit while ago. Alien Beasts, Howling 7, New Moon Rising. Hell, even films this year. I would rather watch this than Actress's Believer or fucking Mutant Mayhem or Barbie. But it's just, I'm watching, I'm going, I like these actors. I kind of like the idea of being on the moon. You know, a little bit different. I kind of like the idea of Eddie being another action sci-fi flick. I mean, Golden Child isn't really sci-fi. I mean, it's more supernatural, like that type of thing. With the devils, the demons, all that stuff. As opposed to a lot of the kitty fairies doing at that time. But it's a disappointment because, like I said, the town involved. You just look at the jokes throughout and you go, this is the best you guys have come up with? Again, whether it be the running joke of calling the kilt a skirt, Hillary Clinton money, Randy Quaid's robot glitching up, cloning a b-ball team from one old guy and calling the Air Jordans. When Eddie and Rosario Dawson go in to check their bodies and they get info, but they need to go through first of if they want to change their bodies just to play with, to fuck with this girl in order to get her trust, in order to get information out of her. And there's like a bit, and this is what I'm talking about with Eddie Murphy, the way he did his comedy at this point in his life, where he dropped the ball. And I think Eddie is a big fault in it. He didn't bring his A game in the slightest. There's a bit where they have this like holographic thing to show different bodies what they could look like, and there's a bit where he shows like he's very tall. And you're thinking, okay, what kind of wisecrack is he going to make? Is he going to say he'll look like this, or he'll look like this? No, he just says, oh, no, I look like a big doofus. No, I don't want this. I don't want to look like a big doofus. And I'm sitting there going, Eddie, is that really the best you could come up with? To look like a big doofus? I think about, The Golden Child. Of course, this is my favorite comedy. And he looks at my sweet brother Numsy. And he goes, this is my dream. This is my dream. So I want to say, from my heart, kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. Imagine if that scene he said, you want to say, you're a doofus. You're a doofus. And you can't say it's the rating because this is PG-13, and so is The Golden Child. So, right there, PG-13. And that's what I mean is that the wisecracks, the wit, the snappy rapport that he would do in Burial's Cop and Golden Child and like all these other movies you think of, he didn't bring any of that to this, and that's what was needed. Again, I'm not saying that would save the film. Like I said, the set design, the sets of the colony, they seem very, bland, blasé. They didn't feel like it had any life to them. The effects for a $100 million budgeted film are mediocre. I've seen way worse, but I've seen way better. Again, 5 years before, The Fifth Element looks miles better and more exuberant, more pronounced in their effects and set design compared to this. It just had a lack of creativity in its bone, an autopilot lead, a supporting cast that were not given the script that really show their best capabilities. I mean, like when they get to Eddie Murphy's base, and they find that Eddie back in the day had this base for his smuggling operations, and there's a robot maid, and its big trick is to bend over and show its ass. And Rosario looks at Eddie and he's like, and then when the bad guys get there and they blow a hole into it and people being vacuumed out, the robot maid holds on and most of her clothes get ripped off, as much as PG-13 allows it. I'm like, or there's a cryo dog, because part of his smuggling, and you put this in a toast or whatever and unfreeze it or go beep 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 beep. And again, that's kind of the imagine a highlight in a movie being a slutty slot machine. Because they have a firefight, there's a car chase. Well, before then, there's the jump over a gap, and the effects aren't that great, especially compared to today. I mean, granted, I know it's like over 20 years ago, but again, The Fifth Element, I just say a lot of those effects still hold up. And again, that costs less than this, so yes, I think that is fair for me to say that the effects in this do not hold up. But yet The Fifth Element does. But they need to see, they think they know what the bad guy is. They go to this place to find Jay Mohr so that Jay Mohr can help them get to the head bad guy. While they're there, there's a slot machine hitting on Randy Quaid. And I dare and fucking tell you, this is how this came about. They thought, what can we put into this thing? Okay, what's in Vegas? Gambling. What else? Gambling, playing cards, dice, slots. Wait a minute. You don't want to say slot machine. Well, I meant slot machine. No, wait. I got an idea. Slot? Slut. Slut? Slot. What if a slot machine was like a slut machine? So it's like a slot machine, but it's a female voice. And so it's a slot machine that you hit, the do, but it's coming on to Randy Quaid, and so it's the slut machine. And now it's talking all horny like, oh, come on, pull me. Oh, let's do it here, big boy. And then Randy Quaid does it, rips the thing off and gets security, and you're an animal. That is the level of jokes at play here. And you watch it and go, you just want to hear that sound. Wah, wah, wah. And then you have this twist. And it's more of a twist I go, spoiler. It's hinted that Alec Baldwin is the bad guy, but instead he's out of the picture, and Eddie Murphy, clone, is the bad guy. Which it just makes sense because they mentioned clones earlier, and they mentioned, hey, remember you were in prison, and they did this, and then they made a clone of you, and Alec Baldwin hadn't worked for you, but then Eddie Murphy had Alec Baldwin killed, and then Eddie Murphy's character took over, and then the clone of Eddie Murphy was the villain. So you had Eddie versus clone Eddie. Which, hell, if you want a more entertaining sci-fi clone movie, go watch The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not one of his best, but it still was more satisfying than this. They have a fight. Eddie throws clone Eddie through some glass and dies. The real Eddie and Rosario, and then they all get their club. Eddie smokes a cigar. The movie ends. Also, I swear the score sometimes sounds like the Futurama theme. I know it's not exact, but like if you listen to the score for some seconds, like, is this the Futurama theme? It's not, but there's some similarities at times. And that's another show that held the future. But you look at that show and some of the wit and creativity put into it. That's what a film like this needed. It just... And it's funny, this says the year 2087, but in the movie it says 2080. Again, it says 2080, but I swear in the movie it says 2080. But, Actually, I'm trying to think now. Did it begin in 2080, but then it was 7 years later? Yeah, I did. Maybe so. Maybe that's how it is. Okay, so... It's just weird that they show the year, and then... whatever. Gives a shit. Well, I mean, I know I didn't mean for this to go for so damn long, but why not? So yeah, The Adventures of Pluto Nash. I mean, if you want better sci-fi, you can watch The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Again, you want better sci-fi with action, you can watch the original Total Recall and The Fifth Element. There's a lot of better choices. If you want to watch comedy with Eddie Murphy that has a bit more of a different take on it, go watch The Golden Child. I always thought it was an underrated movie. Talented people, but a weak script, a star in autopilot, and there's a lot of lame, lackluster jokes, and action scenes that kind of, they kind of make that reaction. I mean, there's a part of me that almost wanted to say it was a time waster, not a good time waster, but it's like, it's a bad time waster. I know it doesn't make sense. It's just, it doesn't make me mad, doesn't make me angry. It's not one of the worst films ever, by far. At least it's short, and again, some of the other things I said, but with the amount of talent involved, this should have been a lot fucking better. a lot better. And it wasn't. And that's the kind of the crime. I didn't even mention this, but yeah, it cost $100 million budget. It made $7 million worldwide. I should have started with that, but yeah. $100 million budget, 7 million worldwide. It was like what, 3-4 million US, 7 million worldwide. Easily one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. Again, I don't even think this is Eddie's worst film, but it's not much to praise either. So there you go. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.